All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you're new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover today. So before we dive into it, if you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with some pretty significant news regarding PlayStation Studios. Sony has officially shut down the studio that developed Concord, that being Firewalk. But on top of that, they also shut down a second studio, and it's interesting because I've seen some people's reactions, and it seems like quite a few people didn't even realize this was a studio that existed underneath the PlayStation Studios banner, that being Neon Koi. Now, just starting with Neon Koi really quick, that is a mobile-based studio. Sony acquired them, I think, a few years back, and they were basically developing some kind of AAA action mobile game, and Sony has expressed interest in trying to really break into the mobile sector, and we haven't heard like anything from the studio. I think there were about 38 developers working at Neon Koi, and Sony did announce that they're going to shut the studio down, and we never did learn what project they were working on. Given what we're talking about here today, I actually wouldn't be surprised if the project they were working on was some kind of mobile version of Concord, because as we've talked about before, Sony had a big belief in Concord. They really thought this was the next big thing. Rumors claim that Sony internally even referred to it as a Star Wars-like property, which is kind of crazy to think about. But on to the more significant news here about Firewalk being shut down. I want to refer to the Sony Interactive Entertainment blog post here. They say an update from PlayStation Studios. This was an internal email that they're also making public here that was shared by PlayStation CEO Herman Hulst. He's the CEO of the studio side of things. He says, "Dear team, today I want to share some important updates from Sony Interactive Entertainment's Studio Business Group. We consistently evaluate our games portfolio and status of our projects to ensure we are meeting near and long-term business priorities. As part of our ongoing efforts to strengthen SIE studio business, we've had to make a difficult decision relating to two of our studios, Neon Koi and Firewalk Studios. Expanding beyond PlayStation devices and crafting engaging online experiences alongside our single-player games are key focal areas for us as we evolve our revenue streams. We need to be strategic, though, in bringing our games to new platforms and recognize when our games fall short of meeting player expectations. While mobile remains a priority growth area for the studio business, we are in the very early stage of our mobile efforts. To achieve success in this area, we need to concentrate on titles that are in line with PS Studios' pedigree and have the potential to reach more players globally. With the refocused approach, Neon Koi will close, and its mobile action game will not be moving forward. I want to express my gratitude to everyone at Neon Koi for their hard work and endless passion to innovate. Regarding Firewalk, as announced in early September, certain aspects of Concord were exceptional, but others did not land with enough players, and as a result, we took the game offline. We have spent considerable time these past few months exploring all our options. After much thought, we have determined the best path forward is to permanently sunset the game and close the studio. I want to thank all of Firewalk for their craftsmanship, creative spirit, and dedication. The PvP first-person shooter genre is a competitive space that's continuously evolving, and unfortunately, we did not hit our targets with this title. We will take the lessons learned from Concord and continue to advance our live service capabilities to deliver future growth in this area. I know none of this is easy news to hear, particularly with colleagues and friends departing SIE. Both decisions were given serious thought, and ultimately, we feel they are the right ones to strengthen the organization. Neon Koi and Firewalk were home to many talented individuals, and we will work to find placement for some of those impacted with our global community of studios where possible. I'm a big believer in the benefits of embracing creative experimentation and developing new IP. However, growing through sustainable financials, especially in a challenged economic environment, is critical. While today is a difficult day, there's much to look forward to in the months ahead from the Studio Business Group and our teams. I remain confident that we are building a resilient and capable organization driven by creating unforgettable entertainment experiences for our players. Thank you for your continued support." So that's the entire email from CEO Herman Hulst. But on top of that, we have an actual final post coming from Firewalk themselves over on their Twitter. They say, "Firewalk is signing off one last time. Firewalk began with the idea of bringing the joy of multiplayer to a larger audience. Along the way, we assembled an incredible team who were able to navigate growing a new startup into a team during a global pandemic. Firewalk was founded in 2018 and was very small for its first couple of years, only entering full production in 2022. Build a new customized next-gen FPS Unreal Engine 4.5, delivering top-tier gameplay feel, beautiful worlds, and a performant 60 FPS technical experience on a stable and scalable backend on PS5 and PC to hundreds of thousands of players in our beta. Manage an acquisition integration while readying technical and preliminary tests, and ultimately ship and deliver a great FPS experience to players, even if it landed much more narrowly than hoped against a heavily consolidated market. We took some risks along the way, marrying aspects of card battlers and fighting games with first-person shooters, and although some of those and other aspects of the IP didn't land as we hoped, the idea of putting new things into the world is critical to pushing the medium forward. The talent at Firewalk and the level of individual craft is truly world-class, and teams within SIE and across the industry will be fortunate to work with them. Thank you to all the very many teams, partners, and fans who supported us along the way. See you in the Tempest, Firewalk Studios, and Transmission. And so that is the final post from Firewalk. And yeah, so honestly, this is not surprising news. I talked quite a bit about what would happen next with Firewalk, and the idea of Sony just completely shutting the team down wasn't out of the question. It actually seemed like a very viable option given what happened with the launch of Concord. But what's interesting here to me is also the fact that a lot of people, we're seeing this as a kind of victory in a way. I mean, obviously it's very unfortunate to see people losing their jobs, and, you hope that a lot of the developers are able to be reintegrated into other PlayStation studios. But the reason why people are kind of looking at it this way is because Concord, I think in a lot of ways represents what we don't want in the industry, in the sense of like, when we talk about new IP, when we talk about innovation, when we talk about bringing new types of games to the table, especially from like PlayStation Studios, which I think there's a reputation there, and because of that, there's an expectation. It seems to me like Concord was the polar opposite in almost every regard of what people expected and what people wanted. And I know that there's a political side to this, obviously, when it comes to the discourse online and the politics that developers want to put inside of their games and the type of messages they want to communicate. And it's obvious that this game did not benefit from that. I would say it actually hurt it quite a bit. So there's that aspect of it, and it really, I think, did some devastating damage to the game and its reputation. But on top of that, and I think this is maybe even the more important part here, when Concord was first revealed, people were so underwhelmed by it because of how unbelievably generic it looked. Not only did the character designs just look laughably bad, but nothing really stood out about the gameplay. The gameplay didn't necessarily look like bad, right? I mean, it looked fine, it was competent enough, but it looked so bland and so like kind of been there, done that. Are we really doing this again? It seems like you guys are about 7 to 8 years late. All of this combined, I think, really just created a package that was destined to fail. But the fact that it failed this badly, the fact that it really crashed and burned, I mean, let's face it, this is the biggest screw up, I would say, from PlayStation in their history in terms of game development and really just kind of all the backing that went into it. And so what I want to pivot to here and talk about is, how do we feel about PlayStation going forward after what just happened with Concord? How do we feel about Herman Hulst being the head of PlayStation Studios, being the CEO of PlayStation's creative business group? He was obviously very much behind this game, a huge believer in it, and a big reason why all of this happened. I'm not saying it falls on his shoulders alone. Obviously, there was Jim Ryan and many other people involved along the way. But how do we feel? Well, honestly, I feel quite concerned. It's very concerning to me that a game that was so clearly not going to succeed at a high level got this level of kind of confidence behind it from Sony, from everybody working inside of Sony. We did hear the rumor about how it costs like $400 million in total to make from 2018 all the way up to its release this year, which is absurd. And we also heard that the game was made in kind of a bubble where it's all about the toxic positivity. You can't say anything bad about this game. And to just think that Herman Hulst was kind of, again, directly involved with all of this makes me very concerned about the future direction of PlayStation Studios. I mean, I'm not assuming everything's going to be like Concord, right? We know it's not. There's going to be a lot of good things that do come. But one thing that Herman does make clear in this email to everybody is that they're not stopping with the live service push. And honestly, I get it. The shareholders are not going to let them stop. The shareholders are going to demand you got to do something in the live service space. There's simply too much money to be made. We want a piece of that pie. So I do understand that. We also have to acknowledge that Helldivers 2 was a massive hit. And because of that, Sony can kind of point to that and be like, see, this is why we shouldn't stop, because we can still find success here. But I would say at this point, the most I can hope for is that a very valuable lesson, very hard lesson was learned here, where it's like, Sony, look at Concord, look at everything that goes behind it, and do the opposite of that. Maybe now Sony should seriously consider tapping into some of their back catalog of IP that fans have been kind of begging them to do for years now, even if it is in the multiplayer space, right? Maybe now they're going to be a little bit more open to trying out some different things with future games that are not necessarily going to be what we would see as something that's just chasing a trend and being like 8 years late to that trend, right? That's the hope. Don't know if this is going to happen. Not sure that I'm banking on that, but I hope that Sony's looking at something like Helldivers 2 and realizing that there's something interesting, special, and unique there that was not made in a bubble, and it was not made in the name of chasing a trend, and yet it found the most success they could ever hope to find. And when you look at something like Concord, it's literally the opposite of that. It's generic, it's not unique, it's not interesting, it is chasing a trend, and it's late to that trend, and it's just not bringing anything interesting to the table. And because of that, the results are you made no money. You put the most amount of money into this, and you made no money back. What did we learn here today, folks? This is my hope. But what a crazy situation. It's worth noting Firewalk was acquired in 2023, literally last year, and they're already being shut down. So I don't think we'll ever see a failure quite on this level again from Sony. I'm not saying it isn't possible, but man, this is like a special type of failure that really is, it's hard to believe that it really went down this way, but here we are. So guys, that's going to do it for the video. Just really wanted to kind of focus on covering this news and giving my thoughts on it. So let me know what you think down in the comments below. I'll be interested to see what you have to say. Be sure to leave the video a like if you found it informative, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share the video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.